Welcome back, Duelist. Casual Duelist here. And before we go with the deck profile for today, let's talk about it for just half a second. Let's time travel back a little bit, like 15 years or so, and let's talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! The way that it was during the GOAT format. Because there are some noticeable changes from today's game. First off, it was still just called a fusion deck. Extra deck wouldn't be till about the '08 synchro time period. When 5Ds would start taking off. The extra deck, the fusion deck, also didn't have a limit of 15 until about that same point in time, which was crazy for elemental hero players during the Reaper format, and of course us GOAT players during the GOAT format. So again, I'm going to show you guys 15 different options today, because I believe that when you guys are still playing this on, I think it's Dueling Book, I do think the software still limits you to today's standard of 15 cards. But in person, yeah, no, you could have like 50 cards sitting over there. Everything at play set. And the other big noticeable difference is going to be players do draw if they go first. So going first back in the Reaper, even Reaper format, but the Go format was just amazing. So you were able to set up on your opponent, and it actually made some decks a little more fair when they changed this rule, only because any deck could go first with that extra draw card, but now some decks can and do want to go first because they have the ability to set up, and others want to go second so that they have that extra card for stability. So let me go ahead. Let's do the challenged deck. This is pretty much a cookie cutter from my childhood. And this is GOAT Control, because I couldn't remember if Soul Control was like a Monarch Soul Exchange type deck, so I went with the GOAT Control. And I apologize for some of the conditions. Some of these cards are actually quite old. So real quick, I use 3 copies of Air Knight Parshath. I'm going to use 1 copy of Osira Priest. 1 copy Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. 1 copy Breaker the Magical Warrior. 1 copy Gravekeeper's Guard. 2 copies Gravekeeper's Spy. 3 copies Magician of Faith. I've got the single Morphing Jar, the single Sangan, the double Tsukuyomi for the round out to 17 monsters, I believe. The spells, just like Speed Duel, I got my triple Book of Moon. Do have the single copy of Delinquent Duos. Sorry, old friend gave me this, and I've never parted with the card. So, yeah, unfortunately, he tagged it. Whatever. The single Graceful Charity, the single Heavy Storm, double Metamorphosis. Now, I do know that this is supposed to be generally played at 3, because, again, it was just a powerhouse card. I only own 2, so I think I threw in a Solemn Judgment to round up to 40. I do have the 1 Mystical Space Typhoon, the double Nobleman of Crossout, the single Pot of Greed, the single Premature Burial, the obligatory 3 copies of Scapegoats, the single Snatch Steal, and then over to the traps, Call of the Haunted, 1 Double Dust Tornado, single Mirror Force, single Ring of Destruction. And again, I think that we have to play Ring of Destruction the way that it activates now, because it is an errata change of the card itself. So I think cards that had errata changes have to be played with the errata changes, which changes this, and definitely Sinister Serpent for sure. There's my 1 Solemn Judgment and the 1 Torrential Tribute. Now over to the extra deck, fusion deck, and again, you guys get to pick and choose. Again, I just wanted to go and show like the best cards. Restrict dominated in this format. Dragoness was the strongest on 3. Flame Ghost was better for Chaos. Dark Fire was the 4 and also for Chaos. Dark Bolter was one of the best 5s, along with Fiend Skull. Guilty of the D-Knight on very rare occasions would help add another light attribute to your board. And Reaper on the Nightmare, excellent card in this format. Then on 6s, you had Dark Blade the Dragon Knight, Ojama King, because again, sometimes when you factor in again double nobleman across out, you're playing up against a flip effects. You hit Magician of Faith, you're going to be taking more than just the one on the field out. And with that, Pot of Greed, draw 2, Graceful Charity, draw 3. Decking out is actually a very real possibility, and being able to collapse out 3 of your opponent's zones and having a 3k defense, if they could not develop into chaos to spot remove the king, this could actually very well work out to your favor back then. Roaring Ocean Snake was... I only thought about him because, again, Tribe Infecting Virus was also an Aqua type card, and this would be one of those good like collateral decisions. Like, it's going to overpower the Tribe Infecting Virus, or they're going to trade their monster and a card from hand to take this off the field. So, not as relevant. And again, if you guys are on Dueling Book, this may not be a selection for you because, again, I don't know if it's going to limit you to the 15 cards of today or play by the time period. Rhea Senshi was one of the best 6s. On 7, which did not happen very often, I had 2 choices. King Dragoon was, I believe, the strongest at the 2400. And again, if you were running some dragons, and some decks did, you would get some free summons from the hand, so that wasn't terrible. The best one, though, was the Last Warrior from Another Planet. Just great effect. And on 8, the only one that I own of the 2 choices I would have made here was Master of Oz. Again, just a huge stat, 4,200. Strongest in the game at that point, I believe, because Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon and Dragon Master Knight, I don't believe were introduced to the game quite yet. And then the other 8 would have been a Gatling Dragon. So I do hope that this has done, well enough to show you guys what a deck would look like. I'll breeze through the deck real quick for anybody who wants to know the reasonings. I can leave the extra deck out of it, the fusion deck now. Everybody else, you guys have a great day, and thank you for watching. So Air Knight Parshath, he's just a tribute monster. He does piercing, and when he does inflict damage, you get to draw a card, so he's part of a draw engine that helps you. Light Attribute is also necessary. Osra Priest is amazing. Again, if you end up in Mirror Match, spirits end up bouncing at the end of the turn, but Osra Priest can go ahead and just claw its way through all your opponent's monsters, especially if they have goats, because you are allowed to attack all of your opponent's monsters once each during your battle phase. So, Blackluster Envoy, definitely the boss monster of the game at the time period. You still had to remove the Dark and Light. And then you choose one of the following effects each turn. You can either select a monster on the field and banish it and can't attack that turn, or if you did attack, you destroyed a monster, you can attack once more. So that was good. I didn't put Chaos Sorcerer in here, but I do believe he was allowed a 3 during this time. Breaker was a pretty great card to help us manage the back rows. Did still get his counter, still went up to 1900. And you remove that to destroy 1 spell trap on the field. The Spy Guards. To understand why Guard was so good, you needed to understand Spy. First, they're going to set up tributes for you. Spy, when flip, special summon 1 Gravekeeper with 1500 or less attack from your deck. Spy, again, having 2k defense. Very hard to run over back then, especially if you start the game with Spy down. And then again, you can have Guard summon out. And when Guard flips, you select a monster that the opponent controls and bounce it to hand. And again, with Tsukuyomis and Books, they could again try to attack this. You could leave it in attack mode for them. They'll go in thinking they're going to get the hit. You'll book your own monster. They'll attack, flip, take recoil, bounce a card. It was very versatile play, and the 2-1 ratio was pretty much set in stone. The 3 Magicians of Faith, and again, I'm not sure if this character got an errata because I just haven't played this card recently. My newest one is from whatever SD6 is. But when you flip this card, you select 1 spell in the discard pile and add it back to your hand. And again, this allowed you to reuse Scapegoats, Metamorphosis, Snatch, Steal. Every card in your discard pile. Yeah, it's just overpowered. And again, I think during Reaper format, Faith may have gone down to 1. I'm not too sure on that. It's been some years. Morphing Jar. Again, this is another one of those, like, I want to get through my deck. I need to get some more cards. I need to get some tack. Or, maybe mess with the opponent's hand. Maybe they think that they're going to be in a good position and then they're not. When this card is flipped, both players discard their hands and draw 5 new cards. It's just a reset for the hand. Sangan, I believe this guy got errated. No, maybe that was Witch that got errated and adds it at the end of the turn now. But when this guy is sent from the field to the graveyard, you move 1 monster or add a monster from your deck to the hand with 1,500 or less attack. Defense is Witch. And then, of course, the deck gets shuffled afterward. So, yeah, he's our little potato. And Tsukuyomi is the walking Book of Moon. So, again, as a spirit, during the end phase, if it's still face up, it's going to go ahead and jump back into my hand. And when this card is flip summoned or normal summoned or flipped face up, we go ahead and flip 1 face up monster into face down defense. So you run 2 of these to help control the board a lot. And again, Book of Moon, it's not as useful like it is in Speed Duel about shutting down loops, but this definitely still helped shut down certain effects. Again, if I was running a field spell deck, if I was running Gravekeepers, I would still be running 3 of these, because when I see the opponent's breaker, I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to put him face down while he's trying to get his counter. And this way, I know my field spell will be safe from him that turn. Again, if I see a Chaos monster get special summoned, I'll hit it with Book so that my card doesn't get banished, what have you. Book of Moon, still excellent, still top tier. And again, if your opponent has Jinzo already up, because Jinzo was at 1, you can do this in order to get your traps able to activate again, so that's good as well. This single delinquent duo, 1,000 life points to get 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. Your opponent selects 1, but yours is a random card. So, again, 2 cards out of the hand, especially if they've already had to do some excessive drawing, and they played a little bit of their hand, and they end their turn with, like, even if they only had 2 cards left, it's just great. You just remove their options and force them to try to play and keep up. Graceful Charity, draw 3, drop 2. Pretty basic. Heavy Storm, destroy all spell traps, pretty basic. Metamorphosis was like one of the defining cards back then, guys. So you offer a monster on your side of the field as a tribute, special summon a fusion monster with the same level in attack or defense position, your choice, face up. What does it say? A tribute summon. Monsters used for a tribute summon or that are offered as tributes due to other card effects are excluded from that. And I'm not sure why they felt the need to say it like that. That's the original wording. It would just be tribute a monster on your side of the field to special summon a fusion monster with the same level in face-up attack or defense position. That would be the whole effect. And again, when we use the Snatch Steal, we get our opponent's monster. That's why we need to have a whole bunch of different levels. And again, with the way that the Fusion deck operated at that point in time, we were just allowed to have something for literally everything. I think the only thing we didn't have was a level 2 Fusion back then in order to play off of a stolen Morphing Jar, or we flip ours and change it into something else. But again, Metamorphosis, again, should be a 3, but again, I just don't own a 3rd. As single MST, just a good quick play, destroy a spell trap on the field. Cross out, destroy a face down defense monster, remove it from the game. And if it was a flip effect, both players have to remove all copies from their decks, and then, of course, shuffle the decks afterward. And again, if you hit your opponent's Magician of Faith, that's going to wreck any other Magicians of Faith that you have in your deck and theirs. And that's another reason why deck outs were like so common. Pot of Greed, just simple, draw 2 cards. Premature Burial, one of the best equipped spells that ever existed. Activate this by paying 800 life points. Target 1 monster in your discard pile. Special summon it back in face-up attack position and give it this card. If this card is destroyed, destroy the equipped monster. And of course, if the monster is destroyed, the equipment goes with it. Scapegoats, the all-star of the format. When this card is activated, you cannot summon any monsters during the same turn, including flip or special summon. Place 4 sheep tokens, 1/0/0s, on your side of the field in defense mode, and they cannot be used for the tribute summons. But that doesn't count towards, like, we had Ritual at the time. And again, Metamorphosis wasn't a tribute summon, so this is why we were able to just spam Thousand Eyes Restrict everywhere. Snatch Steal, one of the, like, probably the first best equipped spell from back then, Premature being second. Equip to a monster your opponent controls, take control of it, and during each of their standby phases, they gain 1,000 life points if this card is still face up. Of course, if this is destroyed, control of the monster would revert back to the opponent. And again, if you tribute the monster or you use Metamorphosis, that's fine. The Snatch Steal goes to your discard pile. They get nothing. The traps, you got the one call of the Haunted. Again, resurrect one of your dead monsters back in attack position. And it's sort of connected to this card. If this goes... if the monster is destroyed, this is destroyed. But I believe that if I used Metamorphosis, the monster not being destroyed, the Call of the Haunted actually sat on my side of the field, I believe. Dust Tornadoes were in lieu of extra Mystical Space Typhoons, because again, it was limited to one back then. So these will allow you to destroy one spell trap on the field. And then if you do that, you can also set a spell trap from your hand as a secondary effect, which is great if you were going to set up something like Ring of Destruction. You did have the one Mirror Force back then. Your opponent's monster declares an attack, destroy all their monsters in attack position. Ring of Destruction, this is, I believe, close to the original effect. Target a face-up monster on the field, destroy it, and then if you do inflict damage to both players equal to that target's attack. This was a great way to actually end things in a draw, too, if you had to. But the way that this was changed was that it's, I believe you have to do it during your opponent's turn, and you have to take the damage before your opponent. And the reason for that is to try to limit how many matches end in draws. And again, I'm not sure which version of this we would have to play by. Playing GOAT format today, I know back then this was the effect. So if anybody can enlighten me, please let me know down there. Again, the Solemn Judgment, I couldn't figure out another better card to put in here outside of the third Metamorphosis that I just didn't own. This will allow you to counter a summon or a spell trap activation, which is great. Another good option here, maybe you don't want to pay half your life points, would have been My Body as a Shield. And that lets you, if you had a monster or monsters that were going to be destroyed by a card effect, you could pay 1,500 life points and protect them. So that was good. And of course, Torrential Tribute, just stacking monsters, destroying all monsters when a summon or summons happens. So that is that. One last quick look through here. I think everybody knows Restrict at this point. We talked about level 3. We talked about level 4. Just a brief over Balter. When a normal magic card or when a spell card is activated, negate the effect by paying 1,000 life points. Also negate the effect of an effect monster that is destroyed by this card in battle. So he could negate normal spells on 1,000 life point pay, similar to how Senshi does it for normal traps, which is why they worked well in concert. And again, if you were going to go after your opponent's face-down defense monster, you didn't have your Nobleman to cross out, you could change Parshath into this guy, gain 100 attack points, and then be able to null out your opponent's Morphing Jar or their Magician of Faith. So instead of them getting an effect during the exchange, you just straight up deny that and get sort of like a pseudo plus. Fiend Skull Dragon. As long as this remains face up on the field, negate all flip effects monsters for their flips, And in addition, negate the effects of a trap card that specifically designates this card and destroy it. So again, anytime somebody would have maybe went with like Compulsory Evacuation Device, something that would target it directly, it could negate that. So obviously that's never going to happen. You just wouldn't target him. That said, if your opponent has more than one face-down defense monster, this would be another way to move from Air Knight Parshath into a negation frame, but again, only for flip effects. So, trying to think if Nidoria was really played back then, or even in the game. Nidoria would be able to do something to you, whereas Balter could run into Nidoria and still stop that effect. Again, Giltia, just on that off chance you need that light attribute. Reaper on the Nightmare, again, super important. Not destroyed by battle. Destroy this card when it is targeted by the effect of a spell, trap, or effect monster. So it'd be a card effect. This card can attack your opponent's life points directly, even if they have a monster on their side of the field. If this successfully attacks your opponent's life points directly, they discard one card at random. So it gains the worst effect, or well, I guess it's the best effects of both, with all the weaknesses of the Spirit Reaper, because the Nightmare Horse was actually the direct attack card, and Reaper was able to poke the opponent and take cards from their hand. Going up to 6s, Dark Blade, the Dragon Knight, he was alright, 2200. When it inflicts battle damage to the opponent, you can select up to 3 monster cards from their graveyard and remove them. This was sort of to counter Chaos. Again, if they had like 2 darks and 2 lights, you just like probably take out all the darks and one of the lights, whatever you like. Ojama King, I talked about this. Stalling out was always an option, and he was the best stall option. Ocean Snake to counter out Tribe Infecting Virus. Ryasenshi, again, you can, for the cost of 1,000 life points, negate a normal trap card activation at any magic card or spell card that designates him is automatically negated and destroyed. King Dragoon, again, just strongest 7. And Last Warrior from Another Planet, the best 7, 50 points weaker. If this card is special summoned, which it will be, destroy all other monsters you control. Neither player can summon. And this is a new copy. This is from Dual Overload. And I do believe he had like an extra sentence in the past. But this, again, is just like old school Vanity's Fiend telling your opponent, look, you're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm just going to put this guy on the board. He is a bit fragile because, again, there were a lot of monster destroy or bounce effects back then. But again, if you had Jinzo in the main, that would be a good option to pair him off with, leaving your opponent with just their spell cards. Again, I think Spell Canceller was in the game too, so you could have done that, but that would put you at a bigger disadvantage. You do have the Master of Oz, again, strongest at 4,200. And I just don't have a Gatling Dragon to show you guys, so I'm not too sure what he did. I remember he was a fusion of Barrel Dragon and... I can't remember the other dragon. It's another like Barrel Dragon, Blowback Dragon maybe. And I do believe it had a decent like 2,800 attack stat. And you got to flip up to 3 coins, and I think you got to destroy a card per heads. And it goes between, do you want an effect or do you want raw stats? So I do hope that this satisfies. This is pretty cookie cutter. I wouldn't be surprised if you find something like this on an online resource. But this is the best I could do, trying to remember how my friends used to play back then. Again, it's been a minute. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, maybe I will do a few more. But we'll see. You guys have a great day, and I'll see you guys on the next list.